what I said to everybody when I first did this, it's either the smartest thing I've ever done or the most stupid thing I've ever done. Only time will tell.
Testing. So today we've got our podcast guest, Kathryn from Mango Insurance. So she's a new fledgling business. She's had loads of years experience and she's just gone out on her own and she's starting to grow that business. But what is she struggling with? Well, there's a little bit of brand awareness that she needs to get out there and a monetary thing and really not losing her core values. Such an important thing to get ready right from day one. So core values we're going to be having a good look at and actually growing the brand. So this is Kathryn from Mango Insurance. Right, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Today I'm joined by Kathryn McKenzie from Mango Insurance, and she's going to come on today and talk to us a little bit about her business. It's a new business, just to kind of get into grips with things and so on. So we'll see what we can muster up out of Kathryn in terms of her kind of 3 to 10 year goals, see what trials and tribulations she's got. So tell us a little bit about Mango Insurance and about yourself. I mean, I've got it here, but for the viewer's sake, so tell us about your journey.
Okay, so I've been in insurance for 29 years, worked for literally the same company. They got purchased about 4 years ago by a very large company. I found the corporate life was a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
For want of a better word. So I was introduced to Chris, who said, come and do this with me. He was taking over a small brokerage, which was called Club Class originally. And I went, yeah, okay, let's do this. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so that's where Club Class started. And then we decided that they'd been doing taxis. So the name was really...
Yeah.
It was sort of synonymous with taxis in Eastbourne. So we decided we needed to change the name to make it sound a little bit more like we did a bit more, because we did. So Mango Insurance came about.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you're going to say why Mango, it's why not?
Yeah. So when you say expanding, tell me about all the... So you were initially, the firm was born as a kind of primarily a taxi
brokerage. So they specialised in doing taxi insurance and all the sorts of bits and pieces that they need, public liability, taxi offices and that sort of stuff. And then when I came on board, obviously, we've branched out. We've made the agency base larger, so we've got a lot more insurers that we can deal with. So we've now got a lot more. We can do anything from motor trade to property owners to office insurance, professional indemnity. Yeah. So anything really commercial based. Don't really do private cars or private household unless there's something
kind of like
slightly
fleet
different.
Sort of stuff.
Fleet, big, commercial vehicles are fine, but sort of niche stuff that you just stuff you'd have for yourself at home. We don't really do so much unless there's something special about it. Okay. So if it's just your little 2 up, 2 down with £50,000 worth of contents that you can get for 50 quid online, we can't compete with that.
Yeah. Okay. So, because your background is not particularly in car insurance or the motor trade, is it? It's more property related.
No,
is that right?
I did quite a lot of work on property owners insurance, but I did actually do all the other sort of policies in the background. Yeah. But most people knew me for my property owners work. Okay. But in the sort of later years, I took over some big cases and was dealing with basically. Yeah. I'd always dealt with everything, but everybody just saw me for property. So thanks for that. So that gives us a nice kind of slightly elongated 60-second style overview of the business. Yeah. So before we get going, one of the questions I always like to ask the guests that come on, what was young Kathryn like at school? What your kind of journey from maybe your kind of coming into teenager adulthood all the way through to maybe your first job? Okay, so young teenage Kathryn she didn't really do a lot. She just went to school and came home. Then I got to a teenager, got a little bit more rebellious, was out in the park at night and different stuff. But I had a bit of a rough childhood, family-wise. My dad was a raging alcoholic.
Right, okay. Always tough to deal with.
Yeah, so I had that to contend with. So I then obviously went into the world of work very quickly. I had a job at 13. I was doing a paper round and working in a butcher shop.
Yeah.
So because I bought everything for myself.
Yeah.
Then as soon as I could get a more full-on job, I went and worked at a hotel.
Yeah.
Worked my way up through there while I was at college. Doing assistant housekeeper, I eventually worked my way up to.
Yeah.
And working in what we used to like to call the bent can shop, which basically sold out-of-date cans.
Yeah.
And then I got bored of doing the hotel stuff and thought, I need to get myself an adult job. And so I did sort of temporary work. And then eventually, after applying for probably what felt like an absolute ton of jobs, I got employed at the first insurance brokers, or the first company that would take me on. Yeah. So because they gave me a job, I thought I'd better do some work. Yeah. And that's how I got into insurance.
Definitely, yeah. Well, it's always a strange journey, I find, that when you like your kind of childhood and it leads you to where you actually end up. Like, obviously I'm mostly known for property related stuff. It's not really what I went to uni for. It's not what I went to school for particularly, but they're like kind of loosely related. I did business management studies at university with media as well. And so I've obviously applied that to what I'm doing now. But it's a funny old journey life, isn't it?
I know. Well, at college I actually studied law.
Yeah.
Which has nothing to do with insurance, apart from the fact it does help you read a policy wording.
I really like the law aspect of the business things. I went in thinking I'd like the marketing and all the rest of it, but I actually quite like the law, statistics, accountancy, all that kind of stuff. I found that really interesting, not having really liked that very much at school.
I was going to say, maths was my thing at school.
Yeah.
It's the only thing. English was sort of, I didn't really like to read Shakespeare and everything else.
I quite liked the maths. I wasn't overly good at the complicated side of it. I was very good at just like basic number reading, like financial information, I suppose. But like Pythagoras' theorem, it was all a bit, kind of seemed a bit pointless to me.
You mean you didn't want to learn how to place a ladder and exactly how far it was from a wall?
Well, weirdly, it came in useful later in life when you want to know how tall buildings are, which seems to be a bit of a prevalent thing at the moment. But I didn't really deal with that. But I think I'm dyslexic, so numbers tend to lend themselves more to dyslexic people as a general rule. So I excelled at that, but I was utter rubbish and still am now really at grammar and writing and stuff. So
yeah, my maths was, it was really good, but I couldn't do the coursework because I really couldn't find any interest in how to work out the probability of how many painted sides on a dice and things like that that you have to do. Yeah. But go in and do the exams, they were...
Yeah. I think, there's like loads of books on all of that kind of dynamics as, like dyslexia and learning and the way different people do it. And I find them really fascinating now as an adult that like kind of some of those people like when they're dyslexic or have got a learning difficulty, they're able to like hyper focus and do one thing really well, but one other thing they can't do very well, but it often allows them to excel their career in a certain direction.
Yeah, so what a lot of people don't know about me is I'm also a qualified personal trainer.
Okay.
But going through that journey, you actually have to learn how to obviously instruct people and give them the right cues because different people do learn in different ways. So I've had to learn really different ways to actually get across a point to people sometimes because you can say it till you're blue in the face and they just won't understand it. So you might have to show them or you might have
definitely.
to do
I think that's a massive skill.
Yeah,
definitely. So we'll get on to your kind of where you want to go and the rest of it now in the next few years. Obviously, from an outsider's point of view, the insurance market's fairly saturated. So I'm looking forward to kind of nailing down on your what we're going to be looking at here. Just see if we can kind of distinguish you from a sea of lots of people. Really, that. And often some markets are very saturated, estate agency, all that kind of stuff. There's always somebody around. But if you can get that USP, I think is really a key to those things. So goals from we asked you about 1 year, 3 to 5 years, and then 10-year goals, because I think that people really overestimate what they can achieve in like 1 year, but completely underestimate what they can achieve in like a 10-year period or a longer period. So you've got one year from now, you'd like to double the size.
Yeah.
Today, obviously, because it's a fairly small fledgling company.
Yeah.
And presumably when you say double the size, is that the business, the team, or all of it? Or
all of it.
All of it.
Really like it to have. I mean, to be fair, when we purchased it, there was one person, so we've already
achieved that.
The team. But obviously, in terms of sort of everything, income, just to make it more sustainable.
And do you have like sort of KPIs for that? Like when you would employ people? I don't know quite how the insurance industry works, whether it's like a salary and then you get some sort of commission based on any of the repeat referrals, like from a staffing point of view, not from an outsider, like the employment.
So from the FCA perspective, we can't give any incentive really to staff. It has to be all related to lots of other sort of performance related and things like that. So it's sort of salary based. Forgotten where we're going with that question now.
It's more a case of like, how do you, if you're going to double the business, you must have some kind of like, right, we need this amount of business in before we can employ someone. And then there's always that kind of ladder step.
Exactly. So it's going to be a very careful balancing act.
Yeah.
As we go through is actually, where we are on income versus where we are
on the
salaries and people. Yeah. Because obviously I don't want to be dealing with every single little bit of insurance, so we will need obviously people as we go through, but at the moment obviously the size we can't, it's a sort of offset of being able to.
I think you touched on a good point there, like the long-term goal is to not get you working in the business, getting you working on it, which will be a theme of a lot of these podcasts, to be honest. But I think I've got quite a lot of experience of like small business growth up to a reasonable size. So, and it's really, really, I don't know how often you look at like your zero figures or whatever bit of software you use, and keep an eye on that kind of matrix of staff versus wages and the rest of it. But it's really, really important because I guess you'll have like a drop-off rate where you go, right, some people won't renew and stuff, and you factor all of those things in, and you can be a bit too happy about it or a bit too miserable about it, depending on your kind of personal outtake. But I think in the early days, those things are like really, really important. And then also as you grow, it's also important to review them and move them as well, because I found like with Charles Cox, when it was only like me and two other people, that as we grew, we almost like we were growing and then we needed the staff before I could afford them. Yeah. And that was quite a mindset change, that I was almost like I was paying them out of my wages to start with and being like, right, I know it's going to work. Like I believe it's going to work, but it's quite painful because I'm just having to take a salary cut because I want to employ this person. So they're ready to hit the ground running when we grow into this new phase. And I had a lot of like, matrix spreadsheets and stuff. And
probably a lot of sleepless nights as well.
It is. Yeah. I think anybody that ever says like, go out on my own and it will be easy is like, you basically got yourself a 50-hour a week job for the foreseeable future, really. Yeah, well, what I said to everybody when I first did this, it's either the smartest thing I've ever done or the most stupid thing I've ever done. Only time will tell. Well, I think if you do it right, it's the smartest thing. Yeah. It's about, I think, having that plan. So I don't know if you have that kind of written down, but I would suggest that you kind of have some sort of spreadsheet or something giving you we've got predictions for where we want to be this year and at what point we need to employ someone. And what are they looking like? Are they looking like you're going to hit those targets for the year? Yeah. Okay. Very much so. Okay. And what would you need to do to, obviously that's your 1 year target, which is double your team, double your size from now. I know you've got like a couple of people there. So you would go from 3 to 6 or something like that? I don't know. Business-wise, I don't think we need it. It's some of it's streamlining processes as well, because you can actually, the more streamlined you are behind the scenes, the more time you can spend with clients and get more. Exactly. Yeah. So not necessarily sort of size of team. I was going to say we look like we've got 4 people now. We've effectively got 2 and a bit. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but they're all fee earners though, aren't they? Like, as in they actually go out and talk to the client and get the things in and stuff. You don't have any like back office admin stuff, like
Not
people that aren't. Yeah.
No, that
Do they
would
feature
be the
in your?
next. Yeah, that would be the next.
I think a lot of people forget about those because those people, they're integral to the business, but they don't bring any money in, and those matrix are different.
Yeah, but they're certainly in insurance. They're a definite, because you must know in property management how much paperwork there is that needs to be done behind the scenes, and it's very much like that in insurance.
Exactly.
But obviously, at the moment, we need I think the phrase from is hunters, aren't you?
Yeah.
Hunters, and then you need farmers.
Yeah.
To actually do all the.
Exactly that. I think like my analogy is like the builder. Like they often they say like, oh, Dave can go and earn £200 a day and I pay him 150 quid. I don't know, whatever the thing is. So we're making 50 quid off of him every single day.
Yeah.
So he's like a fee earner. The second that they go, we need someone sat in an office answering the phone and reconciling our books. They're a complete mind blow because they're like, but what's Susan going to earn, or whoever it is might be there? And they're like, well, nothing. But what they're doing is they're supporting and making sure that the £150 gets paid to Dave and then the £200. And it's quite a hard mindset for a lot of people when they've done their matrix, and then they suddenly have to have these staff that necessarily aren't bringing in money, if you like, from a kind of direct transactional view.
Yeah, but it's a must, isn't it, in any business? Otherwise I couldn't carry on. Yeah, because I get bogged down with all the stuff that I need to do. Definitely. Behind the scenes.
Yeah. So when we talk about kind of more longer term, kind of your 3 to 5 year goals, and you're looking to be kind of, you're sort of primarily based in Eastbourne.
Yep.
And what you kind of want to be like the go-to place to Eastbourne.
I want to be the number one name in insurance in Eastbourne.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're trying to really sort of set ourselves out. Our shop front is we're local.
Yeah.
Because people like buying local.
Yeah.
They don't like buying in my experience, if they can, they like buying local.
Yeah.
Because it's better for the local economy and things like that. So that's where we're sort of trying to concentrate on and hit home that we are the local broker.
Are you going to open a shop then? Because it strikes me like a lot of brokers and stuff, they're kind of online really. But obviously if you're aiming at the local market and being there, like that's a very touchy-feely kind of customer interaction type thing. And I wonder if like that business model would kind of need that customer interaction as opposed to a bigger, like if you were more like focusing national, then obviously they accept that it's over the internet or the phone.
So we're waiting to see on that one. It's a bit of because generally if you've got a shop front, it's for the people who want to come in that are, say, household motor insurance, which is not where we're focusing.
Yeah.
And also from an insurance point of view, it's really good if we can actually go round and see the client, because we can actually see what they want to insure rather than just on a phone going, oh, yeah, I understand. But then you have to go to Google Maps and have a look at it and things like that. So it's actually easier getting out and about. Okay. If you haven't got an office, you've got to man.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to think of like the USP as to why you might become the local broker. Place
I was saying it's not a no. It's just definitely not at the moment. Yeah. Because it's an overhead we don't.
I think you can get that presence fairly cheap if you'll find somebody that will probably rent half a shop to you or something, and you could have your sign up on one side. That might work. But yeah, I'm just thinking from like kind of like if you say you're aiming at like the professionals, if you like, rather than like your domestic, house insurance or whatever, they're probably going to use the internet, aren't they? So it might be that they don't do that. So what's the USP? And I think probably the marketing strategy will be the key point in the next 3 to 5 years for you, and trying to get that message across. I don't know what your kind of thoughts are on how you're going to do that. It's as I touched on the beginning, it's quite a saturated market, isn't it?
It is a saturated market, although actually I would say that the number of small independent brokers has got a lot smaller over the years.
Yeah.
Because they've all been sold out to very large, faceless companies.
Yeah.
So, if you phoned up for your household insurance, you might get, I don't know, Bob. Yeah. And then the next week, if you phoned up to make a change, you might get Jake or Jack, and then, each time you don't never speak to the same person. So you don't build that relationship. You don't build someone who can just go, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's where sort of large insurance brokers have gone, unless you're at such a size that you warrant somebody's attention.
Yeah.
And we're sort of looking at, doesn't matter what size you are, you're going to have your dedicated person who will always speak to you.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good USP to have. Sustainability will be hard with that as you grow, as you probably know from your past experience. And I think locally you'll do quite well doing all the networking and all the rest of it, because you get that kind of eco environment, which is your kind of local Eastbourne. You'll get quite well known and the rest of it.
Yeah.
But there is only so many fish in that pond. And that's where I wonder if you will get to what your next goal is, where you're the household name and you're working on the business, not in it. Like if you fish in a pond that's too small, and I know Eastbourne's quite big, but if you're talking more like Sussex, for instance, or East Sussex, it might be that the pond's much bigger, and therefore you would get to that stage, really, which it's probably why some of these smaller brokers get swallowed up by bigger companies, because they never get past the kind of 6 members of staff type volume, which is where you might start to have some sort of structure, like an office manager or somebody in to do that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's just got to take very careful planning and strategy as to how we do it. Because I am only one person, we are going to need a team. So whether or not we choose to have,
do you have like a coach or anything you work with, or anybody like that?
Not yet.
We
do have someone who sits behind the scenes who's very knowledgeable in insurance, and how he got his business to where it was, but
more like a strategizer rather than like actually in the industry. I mean, East Sussex are doing. I think I've got a leaflet in the car. Actually, I'll give you one on the way out, but I'm not promoting them particularly. I just asked for some, but they've got a 18 hours free business coaching for anybody in business, really, and they're all different sectors, if you like. So if you're like trying to raise finance, or you're trying to do a marketing strategy, or employ people for the first time, they have like experts on the panel. So you go in and you meet them and the rest of it. That might be something that would be really good, because it's free. It's 18 hours, and you have to be in East Sussex, but it doesn't include Brighton and Hove, because I don't know, for some reason they stand on their own.
Well, that's fine.
Anything that's outside,
I think. So.
Your business has to either be trading or be based in that area, or something like that. But that I think would be really good to help you kind of have like a strategy for growth, rather than this person that's helping you like kind of with maybe the compliancy and all the sort of stuff around insurance and that. To help you set those goals, because I think if you don't kind of have them, even if they're a bit ambitious, then you haven't got anything to aim for. And I worry, like if it's like micro in Eastbourne, it is a small pond to fish from, and if the goal is like on your 10-year goal, which will come on, is really to get to the point where you're working on the business, not in it. It's going to be quite hard if it stays like small. And also, as you grow, it will become the Kathryn show, because that's what happens eventually. And everybody you introduce, and then it goes to Jake or somebody in the office or whatever it might be, or maybe they've got their own clients, but they always hang on to you. Like I still have that. Like I've got legacy clients that will only deal with me, no matter how much other people are probably better placed to deal with them than I am, because I'm not as well practiced in all the stuff all the time. So they will deal with them, but they will still want to come to me. So that's quite hard to get away from. And the longer you go on like that, the harder it is.
And have you managed to get away from it now?
Well, I would say for the most part, new clients, no problem at all. I might go and pitch, so they might meet me, might send one of the other staff. I'm still trying to work on the growth of the business. I'm a little bit in it, but not, I'm kind of 80-20, if you like. Yeah. So I'm working on growing the business, and then once I've done it, I'll do a fairly good job, and it's systemized now of almost like, here's your introduction to head of block management, here's your introduction to this, here's Laura King, here's whatever it is done. And then when they email me, I don't then start getting involved with it. I'm almost like, oh yeah, Laura will help you with that. So they realise from a day one that they're not going to be dealing with me. But yeah, those legacy clients are ones that, for the lion's share of them, they've got used to it, and they still ring up now and ask how I am or whatever, but they don't ask me, they ask somebody else. But it's very hard to get away from that. And it's taken probably since really like during the pandemic eras where we grew. Yeah. That was where I was like, I'm struggling because XYZ people were still coming to me, but I'm kind of going in this direction of like, I don't really have the time to be involved in the business. Yeah. So, but I recognise we needed to grow like outside of like the havens, if you like, the New Haven seafood type thing, in order for us to get to that position. Otherwise, I'm always going to just be like, a property manager job is a good job, but I'm always going to be a property manager who also owns a business unless I grow it to that size, because the pond is too small. Yeah.
We're obviously very conscious of it. Yeah. And we do sort of take regular checks and sort of manipulate what we're doing and how we're going to do it and going forward. But it's almost a sort of chicken and egg at the moment, isn't it? We're too small to implement something.
I think that clear marketing strategy is really going to help you. So. Yeah. So I think we'll move on to the kind of 10-year plan, really, which I think we've touched on a little bit anyway. Yeah. In terms of you want to kind of be the household name in Sussex and the rest of it. And I think I like that because it's like thinking bigger outside and as I said about the kind of local market being a very small pond to fish from.
Although you say that, but everybody needs insurance and most people have a business and this, that and the other. But a bigger pond gives you more options, doesn't it?
They do. But I suppose my comment back would be that you've cut out some of the market in Eastbourne because you don't service the domestic market and you're focusing on that commercial market, which is fine. I like that. That's your USP, that you're not dealing with them. But then how many businesses are there in Eastbourne? And also businesses are notorious. I think businesses are harder work to retain the insurance policies or any contracts with businesses, because the owners chop and change, and the businesses, as they grow, they can become a little bit disconnected. Like the amount of times we've dealt with like developers for years, and then the owners are retired and their sons or daughters have come in and they'll be like, oh, but I like Fred down the road, I'm just giving it all to him. You don't tend to get that with the domestic market so much because they haven't got anything to shift and sell on. So it's hard. I worry a bit that if the plan is to get to that size where you're working on the business and you're like the ambassador for the business, if you like, in order to get it to that size where you've got like a proper management structure in and everyone's protected and you're not really involved in the day-to-day running, the pool of potential business needs to be bigger than just Eastbourne. And I think to get to that is that marketing strategy. I mean, we mentioned in the little break we had about the orange sunglasses and your logos are orange primarily.
Very orange.
Yeah, primarily. Yeah. But I think, maybe if you do the Sussex, the free 18 hours that we referenced earlier, or get some business coach on board or something like that. But I'd definitely look at the marketing strategy of how you're going to get to that point. And lots of things I did, like everyone always gets a bit scared by the marketing strategy because they think, it's going to be money on advertising and all this kind of stuff. But, a little secret, these are like just over £1 each and people love them. And they take them away and they wear them and we give them away as well at events and stuff like that. And I used to literally try and make sure like our name or brand was like everywhere it could possibly be, like we have a Mini that's got stickers all over it and stuff like that. And I'd go up to your corporate event, like a charity day or a golf day, and I'd go up the night before, make sure the Mini was like parked in the prime parking space so everyone would see it. I don't know how much effect that had as to our growth because it's immeasurable. But there's a general thing of almost like if you're as many places as you possibly can, loads of touch points, then people will remember you and you've got a distinct name. You know, it doesn't necessarily go with insurance. So it's like a USP in itself, isn't it? But well, it's like, you know, having like Yellowfish or Mango or something like that. You know, it's just a different type of name.
Yeah.
Lots of businesses do that. It's a strategy in its own right to distinguish you from like Smith and Johnson and Cooper insurance brokers. You know, that's like kind of sounds like it's like been established 500 years and probably a bit stuck in their ways. But if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we went for Mango, because it was not boring insurance, stuffy, old name.
Yeah.
Like if we decided, I mean, we were really bad when we were coming up with a name. We had things like Seven Sisters Insurance. That doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
No, and it's geographic as well.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of not making businesses too geographic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you have like a strategy as to how you're going to get those clients and the rest of it yet.
That's a bit of a work in progress.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we are trying to get the brand out there at the moment for Eastbourne, which is a good place to start.
Yeah.
We have got a massive sign, which you may or may not have seen. Haven't noticed it yet.
I haven't, but I'll look out for it. When you say a massive sign, is it like on top of a car or something?
It's not on top of a car, no. It's just in one set location, but it does get a lot of passing people.
You should get a car, I think, stickered up.
We are that's one thing that we are thinking about.
Because you're going, I guess the kind of going for Mango, I mean, if I was working with you on your strategy, I'm thinking out off the top of my head that you're going for that kind of like younger business owner, maybe somebody below 50 or something, like not in their kind of twilight years of their business. Yeah. And you're kind of breaking the mold of like your traditional Smith, John and Cooper type insurance brokers. Yeah. And you're being local at the same time. So you're not like funkypigeon.com, which has got a cool name, but it's not really related to what their business activity is. So you've gone down that route, but you're actually still local, like you care. And I think those sort of owners probably see value in that, especially the ones that are trying to grow their businesses to not be in them all the time, that they can have that connection with you and be like, right, I can pick up the phone and I can do that one thing to you, as opposed to like, you know, for example, like when you ring a utility company, you don't have anybody at all in it, but the amount of business owners I know who use things like Utility Warehouse and stuff like that, not because necessarily they love all the points and the rest of it. They're like, I just want a phone number to ring. Yeah. And it gets sorted. I want a person that I deal with. So, yeah.
And I think that is a big battle in any industry, isn't it? If you look at, I moved away from British Gas to Utility Warehouse for exactly that reason. Yeah. But people want to have a point of contact to make it easier for them.
Definitely.
And that's what we're trying to focus on. But yes, I know I can't be the contact for everybody.
Yeah. Yes, I think that is the key thing, to move to that, because your 10-year goal is to be a bigger man, amazing people around you, and be working on the business instead of, doing that.
And they have got to be amazing people. Yeah. Because I think otherwise you can destroy a business very, very quickly if you don't have the right people in.
Definitely, yeah. You need a sort of a procurement process of that. Make sure they fit with your core values of your business. You'll go through problems where you need to insert people up the chain somewhere, and they might be in charge of people that have been there for a long time and they won't like it and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's under your kind of challenges, isn't it? So we'll come on to them in a minute. But yeah, I think a clear marketing strategy. Maybe don't fish in a small, Sussex, I think is okay. Like it's a big enough pond, and you shouldn't struggle to lose your USP and your kind of core values of the business. If you went national, I think that's very hard, like to aim for, but it's not an aim that you can't aim for. It's just, it is a lot more work to make sure that all of those representatives across the UK are still, singing from the same hymn sheet. When you keep it into like a county, if you like, is probably a bit easier.
Be in the same.
Because you'll end up with someone who's like, I'm employed and I work in London, from home or something like that. So then when are you going to see that person face to face? And as much as Zoom calls are good, you'll probably still need to see them because that's your ethos of your company, isn't it? Being that face to face.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we'll move quickly on to your 3 biggest challenges in reaching those goals, really. So you've got getting the brand awareness on budget. Look for all of, I suppose if I give you my thought on it and then we can have a chat or you can ask a question. So getting brand awareness on budget, I think definitely look for really good value for money things like getting the vehicles wrapped and stuff like that. And unfortunately, you have to go for the effort of doing stupid things like going and making sure it's in the prime parking space. Like I have done that. That is a real thing. Several times and put a flag. One of those big bendy flag things that waves in the wind. Yeah. I've gone and I've parked the vehicle, then put one under a wheel, because and then I even got accused from Barclays and they were headline sponsor at an event and they got accused because I littered it with pens and all the rest of it. And they said, it's like your headline sponsor, not us. And I was like, I've done my job. and as much as I've donated to the charity, I haven't paid thousands of pounds like Barclays would have, and I've probably achieved a similar effect for very little. And I think those things are really important. The old branded clothing, all that kind of stuff, get that stuff out. I know like maybe in your industry it's more acceptable to be smart, but you're trying to break the image of it.
So we are looking at branded clothing. Jay keeps telling me he wants a I call it a gillet because it winds him up, but he wants a gilet.
A gilet, yeah, well, it's definitely a gilet. I mean, I'm definitely known for sporting a few of them, that's for sure. But yeah, that sort of stuff, really. And I think they're really low things to do, and people see them and they establish your brand with like some sort of credibility because you're doing that. The silly things like the sunglasses and stuff like that. And even like when I've donated a wine bottle for a raffle, for instance, I've always stuck a Charles Scott sticker on the front of it. So whoever wins it knows it came from us, because often those things don't there. And I know you could say, I'm doing it for charity, but I'm also doing it because I want some recognition out of it. I'm not donating literally for nothing. I mean, hopefully someone will see that and they'll just see the CC logo and that's it. And it's the same for all the other firms as well. I think getting the brand awareness on budget, if you're smart, you can get it really cheap. It just takes the effort. That's the problem. And I wouldn't spend loads of time microanalyzing whether it's successful or not. If you can just get the word Mango Insurance and Mango and Orange and all that in people's minds.
I think sometimes it's unquantifiable, isn't it, as to how someone got your details. They'll just go, I needed to deal with Mango Insurance, but they have no idea where they saw us and whatever else.
For all I know, that mini outside with the flag and the rest of it and all the pens we gave away had no effect whatsoever, because no one even used the pens and everyone walked past the mini because they came in the back door rather than the front ones. Yeah, they were good pens. So hopefully they kept them. I don't know, because you can't actually quantify what the return on that was. But what I do know is that there is like an ethos to it, where people will be like, I've seen that logo before, I've seen that, I've heard of that. They do something to do with property. A lot of people think we do a estate agency, which is fine by me. It's not what we do. But I'm like, you now know that when you see that CC logo, that it's something to do with property. That's I've won, in my mind. So, I think that's really key. And I didn't have much money at all for those marketing things. And then targeting, people in terms of getting them, you can look on Companies House, find information there. You can target business owners and the rest of it. But it's all stuff you'll have to do to start with. And then as you grow, you pass that down to somebody else. So I think that's so budget wise, I would just look for the things that are going to create lots of impact for little amounts of money. I know that's a bit of anyone could just say that as a thing, but definitely, get on board with the free training. There's always free training of some nature. It's just that's what they're running at the moment. Get that marketing strategy done, and don't get bogged down with like adverts in magazines and stuff. You're better off spending money on the website and having nice clothing and stuff that's going to actually be seen and be used. I'm not a big fan of press ad, paper adverts and stuff. I mean, sometimes it's nice to like advertise in a local charity's newsletter thing or something, just because that's like, public relations, because it's charity, but it won't get seen by anyone.
No, I was going to say old sort of fashion print, and that is a little bit old hat these days, isn't it? I think. And it's generally seen, in my perception, it's seen because it gets delivered through people's doors.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually look at them, I know I pick mine up and go, that'll go in the recycling.
I think, because there'll be people that will probably comment in the comments below and say, oh, well, it's all really good or whatever. But I think it's old hat from just literally doing like a leaflet drop or having like a bunch of brochures in the front of your shop or something. I mean, I go to pitches sometimes and give them a brochure and they give it back to me because they don't want to waste the recycling. They're like, we know it costs money, take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I think where they are good is if you need to write to somebody, like if you're specifically going, right, I'm going after the procurement manager for like, I don't know, Packham Construction or something, like some builder who obviously is a developer as well, and I want to work with them, then they're quite good because you can write to that person. It's more likely to be seen by them than an email, because I think emails are saturated now. So in that sense, you can get yourself a foot in the door. I mean, someone I know literally sent someone a shoe and said, this is my foot in the door, like in a box like that, just because they wanted them to actually open the letter. Yeah. And how cheap was that? Like they probably paid like £7 to send it, and some shoe that they got from the charity shop, or maybe it was one of their old warm ones, I'm not sure. But they send this shoe in a box.
Yeah.
And of course you can't tell me you wouldn't open that. It's a parcel.
It might have something exciting in it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, sometimes we get like, and it's obviously a pen with our name on it, and they want us to order 1,000 pens, and that might not even ever get to me. Someone would have opened it before, but I can tell you, if someone opened a box with a shoe, it'd definitely end up on my desk somehow. So yeah, but you've got their attention. So there is place for print. Just I'm not sure about like advertising in magazines and stuff. I don't know if that really gets. And your target market is probably not got the time to read those magazines or maybe look at them. So.
No, which is, I think at the moment we've concentrated a lot on LinkedIn and Facebook. We've started Instagram, although I'm not sure whether or not for brand awareness it's great, but whether or not that will...
I think your marketing strategy, you should have two types of market. One that's like fuels your ego because people just see it, and then one that actually fuels your bank account. And I think that Instagram, TikTok and stuff like that, like the likes and the views, like that's an ego thing, but it's not actually really generating anything, but it's brand awareness. So I would use Instagram as like a brand awareness tool rather than actually a lead generation, but it's then you then filter them back to your website and then you're capturing them that way. So one type of advertising is going to be monetary, like it hopefully will lead into some leads, and another one's more like a scattergun approach where you're just going, look, I'm just getting my brand out there so people are aware of it. Yeah. Those are the ones that you have to do really dirt cheap, because if you spend a lot of money on them, when you're scattergunning, it can add up. You know, we gave 200 pairs of these sunglasses away at a recent like local village charity event thing. Mm-hmm. And okay, to us, that's a couple £100, but to like me 15 years ago, I'd have been like, I have not got a couple £100. I would have wondered whether I did the stall at £30 or not, whether it was a good use of time. So, it's all relative. But those two types are distinguished, and they'll probably teach you about that on that marketing strategy, I think. So, Instagram's good.
I'll have to get those details.
Yeah, I'll get them out of the car when we go. But, Instagram stuff, like you have to figure out, is that what your market's going to see, or is it just like a kind of brand awareness tool?
Yeah.
So, okay. That's what I would do. And then building a team that has the same core values and getting the correct people. I think that is really hard as you grow a business. A lot of people underestimate it. As you grow, I would interview staff, and it's very hard for me. I don't know how you are, but I'd interview people and I'd be like, you're the perfect fit, brilliant. And then they wouldn't match with the core values at all, because there was no secondary like policing to my decision. So now what we do is we have kind of like a sort of either a first and a half an interview if we're kind of looking to recruit people quickly or whatever, but to make sure that they actually can fit with the existing team. So it's like it's like a kind of second pair of eyes, if you like, not a second interview, but do you fit with the core values of the firm? Because they could be brilliant, but not believe in your end goal, and then they're rubbish in reality.
Yeah, so I'd actually like to pick your brains a bit on that, because obviously there is getting the right person, but there's also getting someone who's actually knows what they're talking about. How do you deal with that part of it?
So I have tests for people if I'm worried that they don't have the skill set. I would hunt them down and badger them on LinkedIn and maybe look at their existing where they work currently and maybe some projects that they've done. If they're a property manager, for instance, I would try and find out as much information as I could about them prior to the interview. Yeah, so with the core values, I think it's really key to have those written out. So I don't know if you obviously have or haven't got them done, but I would definitely encourage getting them done, getting them down on paper, put them on your website, put them in front of your staff and the rest of it. Definitely at this stage now, so that as you grow, they're always there. As I said, it's something I wish I'd have done a little bit earlier, because they were in my head, but they weren't written down anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to go, well, there's only like 4 of us here and we all know the core values. And then we went from like 4 to like 15 in the space of like, I don't know, whatever, it was about 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
And it all just went out the window because we were getting people in from other businesses that are sick in a hierarchical chain. Like I had people that had been here for like 8 years and then they were suddenly had a manager that wasn't me anymore. And it was, it was tough going. Sorted it all out now. But I think if those core values were there, then that would have helped. But yeah, definitely there's a difference between like the qualification and I've got the experience and do they fit with the team? Because I've come across people that are really well qualified, but then when they've come for this kind of screening of when they fit with the team, they're not necessarily fitted very well, as opposed to sometimes people fit really well with the team, but maybe haven't got the skill set.
Yeah.
I won't name names, but I have a lady who works for us who did a completely different job, arguably, and now does a different type of job. So didn't actually have the skill set. But I was like, she was so, like, literally defines our core values. I was like, I reckon I could just train that into you. Yeah. And that is almost like more valuable than the qualifications, because I think you can train people to do the job, but not train them to be your core values or have that empathy and the rest of it. So that would be my kind of guidance as you grow, to make sure that people fit with those core values. So yeah, look at the qualifications, stalk them on LinkedIn, have a look at all the rest of the things, see what they're doing. You can do you can ask for references from the employer, but generally I think they're all a bit pony, in all honesty.
I was going to say references, you don't have to put anything in, apart from the fact they've worked for you and how long.
Exactly that. And don't forget, most of the time people are leaving, so the effort they put into them is not going to be that great, unless they work for a big firm and they're a bit scared of their own shadow, so they might put something a bit more nice because they're worried that their staff member might have a pop at them and say, look, I didn't get the job because of the reference that you gave. Generally speaking, people are not going to put a lot of effort into it. The person's going, why would they? A lot of them will say, no, I'm not doing it anyway. There's no legal obligation to fill it in. No. So, but you can ask for them. But yeah, definitely stalk them, quiz them. You can come up with like exams and things for them to do, or little tests, like in the accounts department. We don't roll it out so much anymore, but we used to have like kind of about 10 little exams like questions that they had. And I always liked the one where it said like, you've got £100 and then you put VAT on it. How much is it? And it was 120, obviously. And then they would be like, now take 20% back off, which is obviously not the same, because 120 minus 20% is £24, not £20. And the amount of people that would put 100 quid because they'd literally just put the 20 on and take the 20 back off, and they'll be like, right, that's going in the bin. If you can't do that, probably a little harsh. But I was like, they're simple questions, and if you can't answer them, then actually you're going to have a problem when someone's account needs reconciling and they made some weird payments and it doesn't all add up anymore. So you can do that. So you got your kind of exams. Definitely check out their LinkedIn profiles and stalk them a little bit. There's nothing wrong with doing that. References, I suppose, and then really do that core value stuff. That I found that's like almost more important than all the other bits. Really, make sure they fit with your team. It's nothing. We had some very toxic people work for us before, and it wasn't a good environment. And that is because we didn't police that as they were incoming, because we just took people on like growth headless chicken. We weren't calm about it. So, I think the phrase is something like, slow to hire, quick to fire. If they're not working out, is probably the way you have to go with things.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps a little bit with your journey of expansion. And then I suppose growing at the right pace to ensure no cluster detriment. I think that that again is quite hard. Like, as I said, we've gone through this kind of like real big growth spurt. It's like a teenager coming of age. And it is difficult because you can't turn it off. You do all this stuff of sunglasses and minis outside and the rest of it, and you think, well, it's growing, and then all of a sudden some market happens. The market that we're in, Eastbourne, for example, is one of the areas that we work in quite a lot. We bought a business there, and that didn't really initiate any real growth. What initiated growth was 2 or 3 of our competitors reaching that kind of older generation, baby boomers, whatever, or the generation after that, and just deciding they didn't want to do it. So they sold up to big London companies. People didn't like that because they like local. So that initiated a fair growth spurt in the business, amongst other things. And we were ready for it, but not, you can't predict when that was just about to happen. And then you're like, what do I do? Start turning stuff away, or do I take it all on and try and surf that wave of growth, if you like? And I think growing it at the right pace often, I think, is a really wonderful thing to want. But it's like, the fairy tale of like, oh, I'd like it like the nice S curve like this, but the reality is it goes along flat like that, and it's like almost like a vertical straight line, and you'll just have to be ready for it when that happens, and then ready for it when it peters off as well, because all of a sudden you're like, well, I've employed all these people and I've done all these things because it keeps growing, and then one day it will stop, and then you have to figure out what's the next stage of the growth, really. So the S curve isn't a one linear thing that happens. I think it goes up in multiples as you're growing. If you look at something like Tesla, for instance, they've had several S curves of growth over the last probably 5-6 years where key things have happened to them. So, obviously they've managed that. I know Tesla are a lot bigger than anybody, and even in the entire UK. Yes. But if you take that as an example, it's never ending. If you want it to be, there will always be another S curve of somewhere else. And especially if you start adding in, like if your sweet spot's like property, and then you add in all the rest of the things that go along around insurance and the rest of it. And although your sweet spot's in the middle, you've got these kind of like cogs also helping, or outer rings, if you like. The book, Good to Great. I don't know if you've read that at all.
No.
Okay, so that's a good read, Good to Great. You can listen to it if you haven't got time to read it, like when you're driving around through Audible, other things available, I'm sure, but you can listen to it. But it talks about sweet spots and then all of the rings around them and how to integrate them with your business without making them kind of either dilute your core value, your sweet spot, or actually overtaking it and becoming a distraction. So they're quite key to do with your growth plans.
Okay.
Well, hopefully they're
tips.
So
I'll have to watch this back now. To remember what that book was called.
Good to great, and try Who Not How as well. That's a good.
Okay.
That's a good one about delegation, but not abdication, and making sure that you kind of don't always get bogged down, like when you move into that transition of operating the business or growing it rather than operating it. So that's a good book to read. But Who Not How and Good to Great. They're good ones to start with anyway. Super. Well, it's been really good having you on. So if people want any insurance requirements, how do they get hold of you?
So they can get hold of me by email, Kathryn@mangoinsurance.co.uk. Our phone number, which is really easy, 01323 444 555. Our website is mangoinsurance.co.uk, and on either LinkedIn or Facebook, we're Mango Insurance UK. So
brilliant.
Everywhere. You can find us.
Really easy. And that's where you have to be, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Be seen, be everywhere.
But also different people like to contact and deal with people in different ways.
Presumably you'll come see them at their place of work or whatever it is.
have a coffee with them if they want to have a chat and don't want me to come to their place of work. If they work from home. So.
Brilliant. So if you fancy a coffee with Kathryn and a chat about things, you know how to get hold of her now. It's been lovely having you on, and it'd be really good to have you on maybe in a year or two's time, see how the growth's gone and the plans are all there. And I'll grab you that leaflet out of the car before you go.
Brilliant.
All right.
Thanks, Matt. It's been great.
No problem. Thank you. So I hope that was really useful to everybody. I think that Kathryn's got some good takeaways there about trying to make sure that her core values are instilled into the business from a very early stage. I think that's really, really key. She hopefully won't just fish out of the small pond. As I've said numerous times, I think if you're going to niche into a market, your pond needs to be fairly big so that when you're pulling out those niche clients, you're not just fishing from a really small pond. So if you like this video and you want to come on the podcast, get yourself a pair of orange sunglasses at the end and really just have a little bit of a chat about your business and see if we can fix your goals. We can make sure that you're on track or whatever it might be. Please don't forget to go onto our website. It's www.matthewcox.biz. That is Matthew with 2 T's. There's a little link on the top. You fill in the form, basically apply to be on the podcast. Someone will get back to you within kind of 3 to 5 working days, get you booked in, and you can be sat here having a chat with us, really trying to drill down into your business needs and your goal setting. And whilst you're at it, don't forget to subscribe. So you've watched this video all the way through to the end. Well done for that. Don't forget to press subscribe. It's a little button just down the bottom there, or hit the like button, or do both. Both would be good for me, but you can do one or the other if you like. And then a super extra task that I can ask you to do, just leave a little comment, even if it's just something about saying how great the video is, or maybe you've got another question or a point that I've made in this video. Do the comment below. Not only does that really help me, and I love replying to the comments and it shows me that you're liking the videos, it actually helps the algorithm of YouTube get this video out to a wider audience, because they'll realize that you like it, so they might share it with somebody else who might be interested in a similar sort of video, and then hopefully we'll help more and more people. Like a community, we'll just grow it together, and then hopefully we can help a lot of people. We can get fresh podcast guests on here and get the thing really, really ticking. So if you could like and subscribe, I'd be really, really appreciated.